It is possible to build a business that provides you financial freedom, time freedom, and meaning, but it does take intentionality. It won't just happen. It's going to take building. And whenever you build something, every architect knows this, your foundation determines everything, determines how high the building can go, what the load can be, how much space is going to be in that building. It's the same way in business. We need to be intentional about our foundation and what we're building. And if we do that, then when we get successful, our life gets better, not more complicated.
Welcome to the Next Gen Scale podcast. I'm your host, Elena, AI consultant and architect of change. In every episode, I sit down with the founders, innovators, and leaders who are building the future, the ones who are solving the hardest problems and turning disruption into opportunity. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, this podcast is for you. Let's get into it. Today's guest has one belief that drives everything he does. Most creatives don't have a talent problem. They have a structure problem. Jonathan David Ray is the founder of Arcadia OS and Wealthy Creatives on a mission to help creative entrepreneurs at 10 to 20K monthly income without burning out. Jonathan, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Tell us a bit more about yourself. You've spent more than 20 years in the creative industry and then switched to AI and pivoted to coaching creatives. What was the moment you realized your superpower is providing guidance and not just performing?
Yeah. You know, the moment that became very clear to me is when I got diagnosed with ADHD. All throughout my years as a creative, I used to get so obsessed whenever I would see something that didn't fit or wasn't quite right. I worked as a musician for 2 decades and I would work on people's records. I would go play on tour with people and I was always problem solving. And for so many years, I didn't know why I'd be so fixated when I saw something that could be done better, could be tweaked, could be optimized. And when in my mid 30s, I went to a I was having problem focusing more so than ever, and it was a really stressful season. So I said, you know what, maybe I need to go speak to a psychiatrist. And she did a test with me, and it turned out that I had ADHD. And all of a sudden, all of those experiences over my career started to make sense as she read out what the symptoms were. And I think that actually is my superpower now with creatives. Many creatives are really good at their area of talent. They're great painters, they're great designers, musicians. But when it comes to seeing the big picture and seeing where they're weak and seeing where they need to grow, seeing what's actually broken instead of just feeling like something's broken, I think that's where my ADHD driven ability comes in, and I've been able to be very helpful for creatives, especially those that feel like they're trapped in a chaotic week. They're on this revenue roller coaster of some months are big months and some months are low months. And then lastly, they feel that they don't really have the ability to do the work they love because they're just trying to take whatever gig they can come. So half of their schedule is filled with, as one videographer put it to me, he said, half of his week is filled with the projects that put the family meal on the table, but he really wants to work on the projects that are going to be in his highlight reel. And so I work with creatives that are also stuck in that place that really want to do more of the work that they love and just don't know how to do that or how to sell it.
Yes, absolutely. I've heard about studies that around 70 to 80% of entrepreneurs have ADHD or some kind of ADHD tendency. So,
I believe it.
would you? Yes, absolutely. Me too. Would you describe some ways or tactics how people with ADHD can learn to better use their brains?
Yeah, I think I would start by encouraging people with ADHD to not see it as a weakness, but to see it as a unique strength. And then maybe ask themselves, how do the symptoms of my ADHD actually give me superpowers in my industry or my line of work? So for me, that it became very evident that the ability to become fixated and hyper focused actually could be of great benefit to people who are really scattered. That their world feels chaotic, and for me, there's just laser pinpoint accuracy. So I think for folks that are either struggling with ADD or ADHD, I do recommend medication. I think that's great. It helps with the symptoms, but to first begin foundationally thinking through how do these symptoms actually give me a unique advantage over the next person in my industry? And how can I be helpful to people using these so-called symptoms of that are deficiencies that are actually strengths? So yeah, that would be my first start to say, how can my weak areas or the things that are told to me and communicated to me as being my weak areas actually be strengths for someone?
Would you say that routine or discipline helps to structure more your work and creativity? Because, like, from my experience, I've never been like diagnosed with ADHD, but like a lot of people say that if you create some kind of a lifestyle and routine that actually supports your being more effective. What is your opinion on that? So would
Yeah.
changing your lifestyle in a way that it fits the way you
Yeah.
work help?
I would say for me, so I can only speak of from my experience, what's been the most helpful for me is letting the boring things in my life be boring so that the creative areas of my life can be super creative. And so what I mean by that is I wear 3 colors of shirts: black, blue, or white. Those are my only options in my closet. I don't need that to be a creative endeavor. I just need it to be a boring routine. Every single day, I go to the gym from 9:30 to 10:30. I don't need that to be this fly by the seat of my pants schedule. I just need some stability and consistency. But then when I hop on a call with a client, that's a creative space. And so I protect that creativity by letting the boring things in my life be boring and not overstressing them and letting the creative spaces be free to be creative. And I've seen this a lot with my clients where they feel creatively drained, but they treat everything like an art project. So they get an email from a client and they just go over how they would write that again and again and again. They're like, "Oh, I shouldn't say that, or I should say this." Instead of, in my opinion, just ship out the a clear response. Don't try to make it this big deal. Don't labor over it. Or maybe it's I was talking to a creative in my program that was making a show poster for a recital that would be advertisement for it. And she was stressing out about the design. And I simply asked her, does it have to be perfect or does it just need to be clear? Like, let that be a boring task. So for me, that's been the most freeing practice is letting those consistent, boring things be what they are and protect the space for maximum creativity. And that way I have something to bring in those spaces rather than feeling like I'm coming in with a cup half full.
Many times progress comes from just doing the work, doing the reps, and having the structure that allows you to do that. And you structure your day so that you can do what you need to do and left
Exactly.
space for being creative. So you are working with creatives, and right now, many creatives fear that AI is coming for their jobs. And
Yeah.
you're actually saying the opposite, that we enter a golden era for creatives. What do you
Yeah.
mean exactly by that? And how can creatives use AI in their favor?
Yeah. That's a great question. Let me first offer a little bit of empathy for people that feel that way, that is coming for their job. I know there has been disruption in creative industries. I know Hollywood has seen a lot of that. I know videographers have seen that. I do think the disruption, though, that's occurring is because it's so new. I don't know that that will be a sustained disruption as AI becomes a common part of our everyday lives. So my encouragement to creatives that feel that way is like, just be patient. It's a lot of new stuff, and maybe pivot. And this is where I'd give my answer on why it's going to be a golden era for creatives in the AI future. AI is making it so easy for the non creative to do something that seems creative. Okay. They're able to make high quality images, they're able to edit photos, make videos. But as access to these tools becomes more global and everybody's using them, what we start to see actually is everybody's content looks the same. Because everybody who's coming to those tools that are not creatives, they're not bringing vision to it. They're coming in as copiers and consumers. They see something they love, they want to recreate that. Why I think creatives are going to stand out in a way that's they're going to be in the stratosphere is because they will bring their actual vision to these tools. And that vision plus the tool will go interstellar. I think of it some ways connected to the music industry. So there were some musicians back in the early 2000s that were obsessed with not using auto-tune. Okay. This new technology came out. It could make it to where you sounded pitch perfect. But over time, something that we realized and the public realized, the consumer realized, is that auto-tune can make a terrible singer listenable, but it will make a great singer legendary. So what you bring to the tool still matters. And I think for creatives, they need to see this tool as something to learn and master and be able to direct. Because if they can add their creativity and their vision to these new tools, the possibilities are limitless. And because everybody's using them, they'll stand above them. They'll be creating things people don't even know how it's possible for them to create those things. And it's because they have vision.
Where do you see most creatives getting AI completely wrong, and what's the smarter way to use it?
Yeah, I think most creatives don't have a purpose for using it. They just know they should be using it. So they're talking to ChatGPT and they're asking for ideas and they're they're just kind of flying blind with it. They're using the tools to accomplish everyday mundane tasks. I think, and this is most people, honestly, but I think what creatives need to do is actually give a job description to their AI tools, almost like they're employees of their business, and say, "This is what I use Claude for. This is the job description for Claude, and this is what I use this tool. This is what its job description is." And because when you start thinking of these tools as agents that have jobs, then you can start looking at your work week and saying, "Okay, which resource can I unlock from which tool?" I think when creatives start doing that, they'll feel a lot less like this scattered nonsensical tool that I just talk to sometimes, and then they'll start actually building their work week around using those tools. So I would say that's the first thing that I notice with creatives. The second thing is this kind of resistance towards letting it do work for you. And I think some of that's ego, actually. I think some of us struggle with, well, it's not me if the tool is using it. The tool is doing it for me. I'm losing something. I'm giving away something of myself by letting this tool write my email for me. I just don't think that's complete thinking because nobody had a problem with using Grammarly when Grammarly came out. Nobody had a problem using autocorrect and spell check and grammar check. And those tools were literally changing how you wrote and making up for your deficiencies. And so I think we should apply that same line of thinking to AI and say it's the director of the tool that is the person behind what's being done. Like, don't ship out anything you don't feel confident in, but don't feel bad about using the tool to accomplish tasks. I shouldn't feel bad about using a paintbrush versus my fingers on a canvas because if the tool makes the outcome better and the tool makes it easier to accomplish, use it. So yeah, I would say those are the two main areas I think I see creatives struggling with in regards to using AI.
At the end of the day, AI is just a tool.
Yeah.
And I think the purpose of AI is to bring your work on the next level and to use it literally as an assistant. You
Yeah.
just say to AI everything that it needs to know, and then you start using it to make your work processes faster and save some time.
And I think if creatives realized how much power there was in these agentic tools like Manus, I use Manus every single day. I would pay 4 times what I'm paying to Manus right now because of how useful it is. The ability for me to give it a task, then to step away, and it does something that would drain my energy normally, something I don't really wanna do. I don't wanna do that job. Giving it to that task, giving it that task, which Manus is not going to begrudgingly do it, right? Manus isn't going to complain about it. They don't take a sick day. They don't need to have a mental health day, right? So giving the tool work to do and then stepping away truly protects my time and my energy for things that I actually love to do. Here's an example of it. I just learned this that Manus could do this the other day, and it was a giant unlock for me. Okay. There is a couple creators on YouTube that I love who are resources to me. They're great coaches. They have amazing content. I gave Manus the URL of this famous coach's channel, and I said, I want you to go through every single piece of content that this creator has ever made. And I want you to create a master guide for me because it knows my business plan. Manus knows my business plan. A master guide for me, only taking the most useful bits of this person's channel and content that is would have the highest ROI on my business if I applied it. That job took it 3 hours, but it went through 376 pieces of content and wrote me up a 6-page executive summary of what I should immediately apply to my business to have a high return on my investment. That's unreal. That would have taken days, weeks, months. And this AI tool did it like that. And think about how much time I saved not having to go watch the video myself.
I think this is one of the most valuable things about AI. We are able to train it to learn about our brand, our business, our goals.
Yep.
And every time we give more information to AI, it starts thinking in a particular role that we are giving. It could be like a marketer or business
Oh,
analyst or like even a
100%.
podcaster. And having the initial knowledge, the role, the context, and giving us back the information can be incredibly valuable.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
If a photographer, videographer, or musician gave you 1 hour to set up AI in their business, what would you do first?
Hmm. That's a hard question for me to answer because I'm so driven by what problem the tool solves and that's the reason I should be using it. So if I had an hour, I would probably spend 45 minutes with the entrepreneur unpacking where there are problems. And then I would use my knowledge of AI to maybe do a 15-minute demo with them and say, this is how this tool can help solve that problem. I think if we just go to the tool with no objective other than to use it, I think we'll just waste our time. And honestly, there's so many tools coming out every single day that you kind of get this shiny object syndrome where you're like, oh, there's this new thing that just came out. And then there's this thing. And I should change my subscription from here to here. But if you approach it with a problem solving mindset first, then that allows you to confidently use a tool. And if they release a new tool that's out there, if it doesn't solve the problem that I came to use AI with, then why should I switch with that? So I think that should be the lens that a creative entrepreneur looks at AI with. And so yeah, I would spend 45 minutes talking to them about what problems they have, and then 15 minutes maybe doing a short demo on how AI could solve it.
What you just said is so true because right now there are so many AI tools coming, and it's so much more important to focus on the goals and on the
Yep,
outcome than just trying them and getting some, say, surface level results, than to focus
100%.
on one tool and get really good at it and then get the optimal results for your business.
100%. Yeah, our
So
time's valuable. I think that's probably drives most of my business decisions is where am I going to get the most value back in regards to my time. One of the pillars that I teach creative entrepreneurs, so we have 3 pillars that if they come and work with me that we're going to optimize their business for. More money, more margin, and more meaning. So we want to be able to make the income that we want to make at the hours that we want to make it in, working with the clients that give us the most meaning and we can bring the most meaning to. And so when it comes to AI, if it's going to help me accomplish one of those pillars, I'm all in. So I need to know though going in what problem I'm trying to solve. What am I trying to do? Because I don't want to waste my money on something or my time that's not going to make me money, that's not going to give me time back, and that's not going to open up more opportunities for me to work with my dream clients.
currently, you're working one on one and also building a community based coaching program. What are the biggest challenges you're encountering when combining these two business models?
Yeah, the reason I moved from one on ones, maybe we start here. The reason that I shifted from just doing one on ones to group is twofold. One, the first is not sustainable or scalable. There's only so much time, right? And I've already explained my 3 pillars, right? Money, margin, and meaning. Well, I can't buy back time when it comes to working in one-on-one settings because I only have so much of it. But secondly, I realized too that there is an aspect of community in these group coaching programs that are actually as valuable to the experience of being coached as a one-on-one. Because entrepreneurship's a super lonely game. And as a creative too, one of the things we struggle with is comparison and competition. So we look at around us at people that are in our same industry, and oftentimes I see this. There's a competitive nature, or there's some blocks put up between you and the person next to you who does the same thing. But in a coaching environment where everybody's coming because they have a need, and there's a sense of humility to that, right? I get coaching because I need coaching. I think the community can give tons of value and encouragement and challenging and seeing other people's success, which unlocks your mindset to believe that, oh, if that person can achieve it, I can achieve it. So that's the reason for the shift for me. I think the biggest challenge for me really has come down to packaging the offer and creating the content and pathways for onboarding lots of people at one time. There's a lot more administrative needs doing a group program, especially in the beginning, because once you build these systems out, you don't need to build them again. But that's probably been the biggest challenge. When I do one on ones, I don't need to have all of these tech stack tools in place. But when you do group coaching, you do, especially if someone is not buying in a one on one setting. It's easier for me to sell in a one on one setting and just walk them through a process. But if I'm walking 10 people through a process, it needs to be fairly robust and automated to where it doesn't necessitate me, oh, let me email you this link and let me then add you to this. those things just need to flawlessly happen. So I would say, yeah, the operational systems has been probably the toughest part.
Building a community is quite tricky. It's easy to talk about, but it's hard to sustain. What's the thing nobody tells you about keeping people engaged?
Most of the time, when we think about keeping people engaged, our thoughts go back to us, what we're going to do, what we're going to bring, how we're going to engage. That is the easiest and best way to disengage people. The best way to keep people engaged is to put all your focus on them. Asking more questions, talking about their problems, the outcomes they want to see, listening to them, speaking their words back to them. If you make your time about the other person's needs and you stop thinking about your strategies and what you need to do and how you're engaging, if you just strip that away and you completely avail yourself to holding some space with people and saying, I'm here to learn and serve them, it is amazing how engaged people will feel. Have you ever been on a date with somebody where they couldn't stop talking about themselves?
I think
Have
that
you
happens to everyone.
Okay. Um, most people don't go out again with that person. That
Yeah,
person did
definitely.
that person didn't keep your attention. In fact, their obsession with themselves pushed you away. It's the same way when it comes to doing business and engaging with clients. Our goal should not be to talk about us, our process, all that we know, all that we can do. We keep them engaged by turning the focus on them. If you went on a date with somebody who every time you asked them a question, they turned the question back around and answered as quickly as possible so that they could ask you a question, by date 4, what do you really want to know? You want to know about that person. You're really curious, right? It's created a bond. And so I think that is the best way to engage people is stop focusing on yourself, focus on them, and become an expert at understanding their problems, their needs, and listening to them.
I think that's one of the main rules when you start working with businesses is just find a way to provide value to the other side. And I think that rule also applies in other areas like dating.
The things that are the most true that work, they work in every environment. If something creates, if care for your client makes your business better, it'll also make your relationship better when it's care for your partner, right? There are kind of universal truths that work in every setting. They might look a little bit different, but they still have the same outcome.
That's true. And now I would like to know what you think about the following. In social media, there was a trend when there were a lot of online courses, online materials, books. And
Mhm.
after the ChatGPT and the AI era came out, I think now people turned away a bit from that content library business model. At what point a coaching community stops feeling personal and starts feeling more like content library, and how do you prevent that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The best way to prevent it is to center your community around action and not around learning. So if the pool for your community is all these modules you have online and that you're going to teach them something each week, I think that's boring personally. And information is cheap. In fact, I think all of your best information should be free. I think you should just give it away to everybody. I don't think you should hold anything back because in the AI era, you can learn anything from anywhere, but AI is not going to hold you accountable to making a decision. For example, I did a coaching call with my community 2 days ago, and one of my clients asked a marketing question in regard to their social media. And after chatting a bit back and forth, learning exactly what they were saying, hearing them offering some recommendations based on their needs and their pain points, on the call, I said, okay, this call is going to end in the next 15 minutes. I want you to tell me the three things you're going to do today to address this question and this answer you just got. And they were like, and we did not get off that call in front of everybody until those action steps were done, till we had a plan. So I think if your community is completely founded on information and your modules and your coaching and what you're going to teach them each week, I think that is a boring model. And I think too, in the AI era, we can learn everything anywhere on any tool. Information should always be free. In fact, I always recommend give away your best stuff because it actually shows a lot of good faith to your community and to your clients. But implementation should be paid. Information is free, implementation is paid. My community is founded on doing, making decisions, not just learning, not just talking about solutions, actually doing. In fact, my slogan is it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And so, in order to make progress, we have to make decisions and we have to be willing for it to be messy and for it to be not perfect and not exactly how we want, but it's in the doing that we learn. We don't have a learning problem, we have a doing problem. And so that's what occurs on any coaching call with me. Even if we have any content, at the end of our Q&A time, there's going to be decision time. We're going to make some decisions on how we're going to apply what we're learning. In fact, 2 days ago, I had a client who was asking me something about their LinkedIn presence and some marketing questions. And as we talked through this question and this person's situation, at the end of it, I said, great. So what are the three things you're going to implement after this call that we can hold you accountable to? And he was taken off guard. He was like, oh, that's a good question. And I said, well, we're going to answer that question before we get off the call. And so in front of everybody, we waited until he had three action steps. Him saying out loud that he was going to do it in front of everybody is a powerful motivational tool because next time we talk on those group calls, they're going to be coming in with the results of what they did. And so I think the way that you don't just turn into some information business, you need to actually encourage people to take action. And I think that's what good coaching is about too. I don't think you're a coach if you just put out content. I think you're a content creator. A good coach is on the field with their players, telling them what to do, watching them do it, and then giving feedback and running the play again. And so I think that's what my community's founded on, and I think the best ones are.
What you just said is so important because information is everywhere. Now people can just ask ChatGPT or Cloud or Gemini or whatever AI to and get the information, but accountability, getting clear on the next steps and then implementing and taking the action is actually the things that create change.
100%. I mean, how many lead magnets have you gotten from people where they say, type in the chat this word and you get it and you read through it and then you don't apply anything? I
Yeah.
mean, hundreds. Or how many courses have you gone through that you couldn't even remember the content anymore, but you know you spent time on it? Or books that you read that were on business that just stayed in the book, nothing transferred to real life. I think our time is so valuable that by putting off decision making, we actually just pay for our mistakes with our time. And we end up not making any progress. And life's too short to not make progress. So I take people's investment in my program very seriously. I want results for them. It's in my best interest that they succeed because I'm on the hook if they don't. I want amazing testimonials and I want amazing results for my clients because I care for them and they came to me in a moment of need. And so I want to honor their investment by pushing them to do the things I know they're capable of and to make the decisions they've been putting off.
Implementation is what leads to change, and The other point is that now in times of AI, personal work and connection and feedback and accountability is getting more and more important when we
Yeah.
have that information everywhere, what we
Mhm.
need to do. But the thing is actually in doing it.
100%.
You are now launching a free masterclass.
It's a
So
paid
what
masterclass, actually.
is it a paid?
It's gonna be paid,
Great.
yeah. I'm actually upping the value immensely, and as a result, it's gonna be a paid one. Now, it'll be easily accessible in the sense that it won't be a price point that's too expensive, but I think with the amount of worth that I'm bringing to it, coming in with a commitment and a little bit of skin in the game is good for results.
Yeah, definitely. With that type of models, people are always more involved in the process when they have paid
Yeah.
fee and take their growth more seriously. Just jumping on a free masterclass or workshop or webinar. What are your current challenges connected to building that type
Hmm.
of event?
Honestly, it's just setting up all of the systems in place to handle registration and automated emails for people to get reminders, um, and those processes talking to each other. I honestly, as a performer, I love being in front of people, so that part doesn't bother me. I could come into it completely unplanned and unprepared, and I would still have fun. That part doesn't feel difficult or feel heavy for me, but it's the just the operational backbone takes some time. And then also to thinking through what is the most effective thing that I can deliver in the most clear way with the most actionable roadmap for people to walk away with. So creating clarity there is is a challenge, but it's not necessarily a difficulty. Um, it's a necessary process to go through in order to help bring results for people that would attend.
How would you describe your ideal target client? Who is wealthy creatives irreplaceable to?
Yeah, my dream client is an established creative professional. They own a business. They know who they serve and what they do, but they are drowning in a chaotic work week. They're spending their nights and weekends editing and doing work, answering emails, the things that are draining their energy. Their income goes up and down each month, and the delivery of their products to people end up stealing more time away from them to actually run the business. And so as a result too, they're chasing whatever work they can because they have no time to market while they're working on their current client work. So that's where I'd like to help them. So if you are listening to this and you feel like your work week is chaos, your revenue goes up and down each month, and you are torn between the work you want to do and the work you have to do, because that's the inquiries you're getting, I help you fix that. We not
Yeah, I
only
think
install systems to help, I also force decisions to be able to make progress in all three of those areas.
that's a very good point. It's not also for creatives. Like a lot of people, they don't realize how they get stuck on one level, and then it gets really hard to go to the next level and to start working
Hmm.
with better clients to develop some new skill because you're just drawn in all those tasks that are, let's say, urgent, but maybe not so important to your growth. So getting
A
out of
hundred
that
percent.
situation and seeing the big picture, I think it's really important for long-term vision and success.
Yeah, and a lot of folks are stuck because all the processes and things that they did that helped them survive up until this point will not help their business thrive. And so there is a lot of work to do in regards to like untangling their business in themselves, because most creatives actually don't feel like they have a business and them as a creative. They're kind of intertwined, right? The business is almost an extension of themselves. So there's a lot of work that's needed to detangle all of those practices and mindsets that helped them survive when they were getting started in order to build something that's going to truly thrive and give them back time freedom, financial freedom, and freedom to do the work they want to do with who they want to do it. So yeah, it's okay to be stuck. That's just the thermometer telling you that, hey, what I've been doing is now kind of making me sick. So the solution is going to be discarding some of that and working in new ways. What I like to tell clients too, I hate adding more work onto the plate. We're not going to do more work when you come to work with me. We're going to do different work. We're just going to swap out what you're doing with something that's better. And that to me feels the most calming, not adding a ton of things onto the to-do list, but saying, oh, I'm just going to do things differently. And that's going to help me move forward as opposed to, oh gosh, now I got to do this. I got to add this to my schedule and I got to do this. So I think a lot of people get stuck surviving and not realizing that they need to discard a lot of things in order to thrive.
Absolutely. I've heard something recently that the things that brought you to one level won't bring you to the next level. Do you think
Mm,
that's true?
100%. 100%. And it's not a bad thing. It's just life, right? When we're little and we're learning to ride a bicycle, we usually have training wheels, unless we do in the States. I don't know what they do in Germany, but we have training wheels. Well, there's going to be a point when those training wheels that helped you survive and not literally survive and not fall off the bike on your face, they're going to hinder you, right? They're going to actually become difficult for you because as you get more comfortable and you can go fast and you can turn and you can do all these things on a bicycle, then they become obstacles. So it's a normal progression. Everybody should not feel bad that they're stuck in a place. It's just an invitation to move up to the next level. And it's actually an encouraging thing. If you think about it, it's an indicator that you're making progress. Being stuck is actually telling you, wow, I've made progress up until a certain point, and now I'm being invited into a new way of doing things so that I can make more progress. It's an indicator that you've done something right. And now you just need to make a change in order to move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting out of the comfort zone. And
Hmm.
that's another thing that helps people see new perspectives. When you try a new thing, just the fact that you went out of your comfort zone
Hmm.
opens so much more perspectives.
100%.
What is the vision you're building towards?
Ooh, that's a big question. Personally, in business, all of the above, what would you say?
Let's start with the business.
Okay. So I would say in my business this year in 2026, I would like to help 100 entrepreneurs get to six figures plus for the first time in their career. That's my big vision for this year. My second business vision is that I'm working on my own podcast for wealthy creatives, and the goal of that podcast is to use the stories of other creative professionals to encourage people that are 5 years behind us, people that are still figuring out dipping their feet in the water. So I would love for that, the podcast, to be a huge resource for entrepreneurs that are just getting started in the creative fields. Honestly, those are my two biggest business goals. I mean, I have KPIs for my business, but those are behind the scene things. I would say the two big things is helping 100 entrepreneurs hit their first six figures and more, and making sure that podcast is a great resource for people who are just getting started.
Yeah, I think what you just said, the results of your clients, this is a thing that I think most entrepreneurs need to have that goal. I want my clients to be there where they want to be, and this speaks louder for the business. And about your podcast, I actually watched the first episode,
Yeah.
and I was really amazed from how professional was everything, like the recording in the studio,
Thank you.
like the questions. So
Yeah.
it was really nice. Yeah, I really enjoyed
That's
watching it.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
So we're coming to the last question. What would be your advice for the people wanting to reduce procrastination and keep the things moving and increasing the value they provide?
Your motivation for making progress determines whether or not you will make progress. What I mean by that, a year ago, almost to this day, I left a very toxic job that I had worked for 5 years, half a decade of my life. It was my highest paying job I'd ever had. I managed the most people. I had a team of 200 plus, and I was making an impact in this organization, but it was making me miserable, miserable. As a result, in 5 years, I gained 60 pounds. I was not sleeping. I was just running ragged. And so when I left that job and resigned with no job in the future, I took a total step of faith. I determined to myself that I was going to get healthy again, both mentally and physically. And I had tried that for years, but I knew I needed a better motivation because the old ways weren't working. Just getting healthier and taking care of myself didn't really make that progress possible. And so one day I said, "You know what? I'm going to base my journey ahead on who in my life I love and want to serve and will benefit most from my progress." And so I looked at my 3 kids and I thought to myself, they need to have a dad who's healthy. So my motivation for getting healthy again was to show my kids what health looks like, to model that for them. And so in the beginning, when it was difficult to get up out of bed and go to the gym and to make sure I was eating completely healthy and taking time to care for my mind and feed my heart and my soul, I just remembered that motivation. This is why I'm doing it. And so when you are thinking about making progress in your life, your motivation needs to be something that's bigger than you and in service to someone else. If your motivation is simply to achieve, it'll be very difficult to get there and you probably won't. When your motivation is in service to self, you'll make excuses for when you fail. It'll be somebody else's fault. When the reason for your motivation is care for someone else that you have to see, that you love, you'll make it happen. You'll move mountains. And so, for people that want to make progress in their life, spend time. Don't be quick with this part. Spend time not only discovering what your motivation needs to be, but discovering something that truly resonates with you, that you have an emotional connection to that motivation, and it'll make progress easy. For me, I found my new motivation last August, and I lost 60 pounds in 6 months. It was only possible because of that new motivation. When people would ask me, how'd you do this? How'd you get so healthy again? I would tell them, and Elena, they would tell me, that sounds too hard. But for me, it became easy when my motivation became clear, the right motivation. That's what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah, that's so true and so important because first, I think everyone needs to have this sense of purpose in life. And then second, being a good example, whether it's for your kids or for other people, taking care of yourself and of your health is the most important thing for every entrepreneur because if
Yeah.
you are not healthy, you cannot bring things forward. This is the foundation. And I think this is so important for many people to learn to have that stable basis, especially in entrepreneurship.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Jonathan, thank you very much for having that conversation in the podcast. I think it was very, very valuable for the audience how they can start having more structure, more systems, and spend some hours without burning out trying to do everything and focus on the most important and start from there.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. It is possible to build a business that provides you financial freedom, time freedom, and meaning, but it does take intentionality. It won't just happen. It's going to take building. And whenever you build something, every architect knows this, your foundation determines everything, determines how high the building can go, what the load can be, how much space is going to be in that building. It's the same way in business. We need to be intentional about our foundation and what we're building. And if we do that, then when we get successful, our life gets better, not more complicated. As my business grows, my calendar doesn't. And I don't spend 5 years doing things that drain all my energy and steal me from my true passion at work. It provides the opportunity to do that, but it does take intentionality.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for those lessons in the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Where people can find you on social media.
At Jonathan David Ray. I'm That's my profile across every account. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, just at, and then a Jonathan without an H in the beginning. So I'm JONATHAN David Ray, RAY. And you can find me there. Send me a DM, shoot me a comment. Would love to talk with you and encourage you.